Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tuesday Live here with myself, Melissa O'Brien, and my co-host, Lily Maw. And today
Hello,
we're going to be,
everyone.
sorry, Lily. And today we're going to be talking about beauty on the inside and the outside. Isn't that right, Lily?
That's right. That's right. I became very interested in this topic because I realized that Melissa does a lot of beauty stuff as well. So I want to kind of find out about your beauty therapy that you have learned.
Well, it feels like a long time ago now, but back in 2009, I started to study beauty
Mhm.
therapy. Feels like another lifetime, actually. And it was a 2-year diploma course, basically, so that you could go afterwards and work in a salon, or you could work in a hotel here in Ireland, which is very popular for tourists when they come. So you could do massage, or you could do facials, nails, waxing, or makeup. And it was a fantastic course. You know, we got to do lots on it. And I think at the time there was 92 places and there was 400 applicants. And I was going as a mature student at the time. So I went in there like really ready for this interview. You know, I was so excited. And anyway, I was lucky I got it. And there was, I think they chose 3 mature students. There was myself and there was another 2 ladies. So I was delighted to have them on board as well. And it was a fantastic experience. We got to learn how to practice massage on the body and also how to massage the face. We learned facials and we got trained in Dermalogica, which is a very good product. And we learned all about the chakra system as well. So that was fabulous. And hot stone massage. And we did nails. I have to be totally honest now, the nails I wasn't crazy about. I didn't like the smells of the nail varnish or the acids for removing the nails. But what I did love there was nutrition. We learned a lot about nutrition. And I loved the whole pampering part of it, of course, massaging somebody's face and giving them a facial and applying makeup as well. You know, that was lovely. So,
So what drew you towards it in the beginning?
well, to be honest, I had a hobby of applying makeup, not only to myself, but every single person that came in contact with me. If they were going out for a night or if there was a wedding coming up, it was something, it was like a hobby I used to do at home, you know? And I never charged for it or anything like that. It was just something I enjoyed doing. And I went on a girly holiday with 2 of my best friends, and we went out to Portugal. And I brought all this makeup with me, and every evening before we go out for dinner, I'd apply makeup on them. And we were speaking about skin, and one of those girls, she was actually a masseuse. She was working in a hotel. And she was saying to me, why don't you go back and study? You could do beauty therapy. You'd be fantastic at it. She had great interest in it. And at the time, I was just after coming out of a long-term job. I had been made redundant. So I had free time. You know, it was like perfect timing. And I decided then to look it up. And so I applied for it. And I was just lucky, really. I got it. And then initially, you know, I thought, what am I going to do with this when I finish? Am I going to work for myself, or am I going to go work in a salon? And originally, I had planned on working for myself. And but through college, we had to go and work in a salon, you know, to build up our hours. So that's what I ended up doing, was working in a salon. And from working there, of course, when you're fresh out of college, you're going to be always thrown into the area where you don't like, which for me was nails. I hated nails, and I was on the nail bar every single day, you know, doing different ladies' nails. I did it anyway, but so basically I continued working there, and then I got great opportunities out of it. And there was lots of, it was in a very busy shopping centre, and there was a model that was coming in and out of there, and I needed to build up a portfolio for makeup looks. So she came in to the salon one day, and I'd said it to the owner, would it be okay if I could practice makeup on her, and you could also see my skill, and maybe I could work on clients, you know, move from the nail bar. So I was blessed anyway. I got to do her makeup, and I started doing some makeup then on clients as well coming in. And then basically I passed all my exams and I finished up college, but I never actually started to work for myself because then I fell pregnant with Rose. But I always kept up doing massage at home and doing facials on myself. And I did a bit of makeup on the side as well. I did some wedding makeup. and makeup for friends. So I still kind of kept it going. But in between all that, I had really got into psychology and beauty from the inside. I knew that people felt amazing when I applied makeup on them, you know, but it didn't seem to last. You know what I mean? Let's say, for instance, if I could be with a friend and maybe, you know, she needed cheering up or whatever, we might go for a dinner or we might go out for a few drinks, and I'd help do her makeup and lift her spirits, you know, maybe give her a facial, and she'd feel great for those couple of hours. But then the next day when you start talking to somebody, you know, it wears off. So I started to think, people really, exterior is very important, beauty on the outside, but what people really need is the self-confidence on the inside and to love themselves, you know, more, you know, than what they look like. Mm-hmm. So that for me was very important. And so I started to go more into that and started to practice mindfulness, as you know, and started to read a lot more on those subjects, you know, how people think, why people depend more on what other people think of them than they do of what they think of themselves. And then I started to look into myself, you know, and start to wonder, why was I so passionate about makeup, you know, as well? And I started to realize that it was for me in secondary school, because I had very bad acne at the time. And I started to use makeup, and that was a great tool for me to be able to put my best self forward, but also was a sense of expression, you know. But what I also realized was I was depending on that, you know, and I started to work on myself to become more confident on the inside, you know. So it really kind of all went together, you know. I absolutely love makeup. I love everything got to do with self-care, looking after yourself, going for a massage, having a facial, you know, and speaking about certain beauty products. But I really do believe that nutrition plays a huge part in it. You know, what we're eating, and I think as well, more importantly, how we're feeling about ourselves. So,
nice.
Yeah.
I find it so interesting, and I think a lot of people could benefit off this as well, how you took something that was a hobby, you know, something that you love doing, you love putting makeup on other people, and you applied that to going back to school, and then eventually it led you to doing mindfulness practice and all the things that are around it. I think it's so important to follow your curiosity and the things that you already love.
Absolutely.
I was like, well, I want to start my own business, but I don't know where to begin. Like, you probably didn't do it intentionally, but you did so naturally, like following your instincts and following your curiosity. I thought that was really brilliant. And I kind of want to put like a pin on that.
Oh, thank you, Lily. But you worked in the fashion industry yourself, so you know what it's like as well, you know?
I worked in the fashion industry. It kind of started, my curiosity in the fashion industry started when I was in high school. I love the fact that you could express your creativity through fashion and the way you look, like whether if it's your hair, like before we got on the call, we started talking about tattoos and piercings as well, where we'll go into that a little bit. I just love that part of fashion. And then I went into fashion. I spent I studied fashion, and from studying fashion to ending my career was about 15 years of my life I spent in the fashion industry. And I still love it. I still love fashion. I love everything. I love the creative aspect of it. What I didn't like out of it was there was it became about corporations, and it became about money versus the actual creative aspect of it. Now, I could have approached it in a different way. I always wanted to be a fashion designer, but I went into the business side of it because I had this negative limiting belief that artists don't make any money. So I went into the finance part of it, and that's where my dissatisfaction started. So if I had naturally followed my instincts and following the creative side, I probably would have been a lot happier. However, you know, everything happens for a reason, because if I followed that direction, I probably won't be here talking to you. So it's all
amazing. It's amazing the way one thing can lead you to another thing, I think, you know. And I think it's a little bit of soul searching as well, you know. Something that's really resonating with you, or you're just doing it because you studied it. And I found for me, and I don't know if there's anybody else out there who can relate to this, but once you study something, you kind of feel this push or need or something to do something with it. And I remember at that time thinking, I should be doing something with this now. But at the same time, my mind was expanding, you know, and I could see different branches off of this tree. That's the way I look at it. And that the beauty was, you know, for me, expanded in a whole other level, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that as well, I started to look into things like, you know, how do I look at people, you know, who don't wear makeup or who do wear makeup, or, you know, see what way I judge people as well, you know. And then to think about, you know, why we self-judge ourselves as well. You know, we all judge ourselves. We criticize ourselves at times. So, you know, all this for me was such, how would you say, this was something I was fascinated with, you know, and I started to kind of watch myself, you know, to try to become aware of how I was looking at things and trying to find beauty everywhere, you know, even in the places where you don't notice it, you know. Mm-hmm. So, especially with different people, you know, I love meeting people, and this was a great opportunity for me, YouTube, you know, to connect with other YouTubers and to chat to them, and this experience now with you, you know. And I know that, you know, with you, Lily, you're an amazing person inside and out, you know, and you have worked in the fashion industry, and you know as well that what it's like, you know, to be judged, I'm sure, or to even judge. Mm-hmm. You know, so I think it's important we talk a little bit about that as well, how we can judge people by the way they look, like we were saying earlier about piercings, tattoos, and that really we just need to, you know, not judge so much and maybe just respect other people's, you know, point of vision or their own creativeness, you know what I mean, their self-expression, like what you were saying earlier.
I think it begins from not judging ourselves too much. That's how it begins. And we spoke a lot about makeup, no makeup, all of that. So for the folks that don't know, I also struggled with acne in my early 20s. And I got to a point that I was like trying different types of foundation to kind of cover up my acne. And what I noticed was a couple of things. Number one, when I looked at myself a certain way, I presented myself differently. So if I saw that, okay, my acne is not the first thing that is like blaring in someone's face, I feel like comes through a little bit more. And then coming to the point that, and it was great. And I think there was a study with a plastic surgeon. I wish I remembered their name. Anyways, when I remember this plastic surgeon's name, I'm gonna link it in the below. It's they talked a lot about how doing reconstructive plastic surgery actually helped people bring out their true selves even more. Which is interesting because you think it's the other way around. Yeah. So in this, yeah, because if you have like a giant scar across your face, you feel like you can't really, you know, be yourself because you feel like people are staring right at your scar.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the first thing is not judging ourselves to begin with, and really using makeup or hairstyles, your clothing, whatever it is, as a way to express yourself versus covering up your true selves. I think we could use that as like tools to bring ourselves even more out into the public, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that does make perfect sense. I totally agree with you on that. Absolutely. And everything is a form of expression, you know, from whether you wear makeup or your clothes. I mean, years ago, I would have been more hardcore, you know. I think that definitely I was more worried about what makeup I was wearing. Now, I don't care, to be honest, you know. Once I look presentable and I'm happy with it. But that was something that it took time to work on myself to feel like that, you know. Because I do feel that there was a stage where I was more dressing and we'll say doing makeup for what other people would think of me. And I think there's many people out there that, you know, do that, you know what I mean? But now at this stage, well, not only now, a long time now, you know, I really don't care. I don't know, does it come with age or does it just come with more confidence in yourself and accepting yourself, like what you said before? I think really accepting yourself 100%. You know, and not being afraid, you know, to wear something different, you know, or to do a piercing if you want to do a piercing, to just express yourself. But as you say, not to use it just because it's the norm, or that you know, people outside are going to admire you for that, you know. And I think this goes into relationships also, which is an important thing to bring up. You know, aesthetically is probably the first, when we first meet somebody, you know, the first thing we do is we look at them. Obviously, if it's a potential partner, we'll say, or something like that. It's the truth, like, you know, let's be honest. And I always remember, like my husband now, obviously it was the first thing I noticed was how he looked. And my immediate reaction, I thought, oh, he's so handsome, you know, he's a handsome man. Yeah. But I have to be totally honest, prior to him, the guy I was with prior to that, he was Italian. But it wasn't, I wasn't immediately attracted to him. I wasn't, you know. He just won my heart over by the way he spoke to me. You know, I just gave him a chance, you know, because he made such an effort, you know, to get to know me. And, you know, we met up randomly on a night out, you know, and we got talking, but there was no chemistry for me. I have to be totally honest at that moment, you know, because obviously I was judging him from the outside, you know, and he wasn't ugly. He was a good looking man, but like, just, you know, the way you have that instant attraction with somebody. And what happened was, anyway, he went back to Italy, and this was, we're talking now a long time ago, you're going back into the 90s. And that time there was no mobile phones, you know, and we didn't have a house phone even in my house, in my parents' house. So the only way we could connect was through letter writing. You know, so he used to write these letters. And it was actually, that's how I fell in love with him then, was through the letters, you know, because I got to know what he was like on the inside and how beautiful he was on the inside. Now, as I say, the way I came off there, you would probably think this man wasn't handsome. He was, you know, but it was just the immediate attraction wasn't there for me, you know. But the thing was, and the effort that he made, you know, he came all the way back to Ireland again to visit me, and then he invited me to Italy, and I went over to Italy. And then basically that relationship went on for about 6 years, you know, but obviously I moved to Italy after a while. But we'll say for the first year, it was kind of, he was coming over a lot, but it was all through letter writing. And I remember that time, the closest phone to my house was a telephone box, and actually my neighbour across the road. And sometimes I'd let him bring me there, but I didn't want to intrude on them, you know. So it was like a phone box. And I remember there was people living where I was living. They used to hate seeing me coming towards the phone box, because they knew once I'd step in, I'd be there for an hour, you know. And there'd be a queue outside waiting. But what I try to get across here is that sometimes, you know, even down to relationships, you know, we go on face value, okay? And sometimes it works, because that's what I went on first as well with my husband, and it worked out. But, you know, it really does matter what the person is like inside and how you're connecting, you know. And I found for me, you know, when I started to think about, before we came on this hangout, you know, I was trying to think of different experiences in my life, even in relationships. That was the one thing that rang through for me, you know, that it is possible, you know, to not immediately be attracted to somebody, but to actually fall in love with somebody as well once you get to know them. And really, isn't that the part that holds the relationship together as well? You know,
yes, well, in the long run,
side, you know, the connection you make with somebody, and how well you connect, and, you know, how you get on, obviously. So I just thought I'd share that.
Well, there's different types of attraction. And there's
Hello. I think we're after freezing Lily a little bit. I think we're after losing Lily.
Am I back? Am I back?
You're back. Hello.
I am back. I am back. We were talking about different types of attraction. Yeah, there's different ways. I mean, it's a gift. It's an added gift if you feel like you're physically very attracted to that person. and you're like, wherever they go, I just want to follow them because my hormones are just pushing me that way or pulling me that way. But yes, to have longevity, there needs to be more than that. And the attraction is more like attraction of values, attraction of the same sort of mindset. And that comes with time. You're not going to know that from the beginning, but it's a nice gift to be immediately attracted to that person right away. Like with my husband, I was immediately attracted to him physically. And then I was like, okay, let's go. And then I was like, okay, let's see what's going on beyond that. And then the person that he was made him even more beautiful than him just being physically attractive. But it was an added bonus that I had that.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? It's so important to have it inside and out, you know, in order, because there's going to be days we're not going to look at our best, you know, we don't all wake up perfect, you know. So, I mean, like, it's so important to have, to be able to have great conversations and to have values, exactly, you know. Values are very important.
Exactly.
You know, support, you know, and to be able to be yourself, more importantly, that you don't have to put on a show. That whatever you're thinking, no matter how strange it is or how funny it is or whatever, that you can just express yourself and say it, you know, and you're not going to be judged for that. You know, they know who you are, basically.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's very important as well to be real and to try and show people who you really are, you know. Obviously, we have to have tact, you know, on the way we do that, but at the same time, to try and make it as real as possible, you know what I mean, to really show people. You know, especially if you're going into a relationship, you know, you have to, I think it's so important. But I think the key ingredient as well is absolutely knowing yourself.
Yes.
And I think for me personally, even before I got married, you know, I still didn't really know who I was. You know, if I'd be totally honest about it, you know, I was just, I suppose, lucky really that everything fell into place. You know, but I definitely, you know, my advice would be to anybody out there, you know, dating or going into the dating world. You have an advantage, you know what I mean, because you can learn these things, get to know yourself more, you know, learn your values, you know, and ask questions. I think it's very important to ask people questions as well, you know, before you commit or go into a marriage, you know. And I think that's the secret to a happy marriage: good communication, trust, and obviously to be yourself, more importantly, you know. So
we spoke a lot about being yourself and being true to yourself. There's a question in that chat. Positive Vibes is asking, how do you stop judging yourself? Do you have any advice for Positive Vibes?
how to stop judging yourself? I think it takes work. It's you know, it's something you have to catch it first of all, I think, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like a practice, really, you know. You have to put, I don't hate to put a label on it, but it is negative self-talk, really, isn't it? So you have to be able to catch that, you know. And maybe as well, if it's something that's repetitive, if it's the same thing, you need to write it down, I think. You know, for me, I like to write things down. If there's something that's repetitive, you know, that keeps coming up, we'll say something like a negative self-thought or judgment, write it down and try and figure out where it came from. You know, because it may not be yours.
Yes.
This is so important to say. And I'm learning all about this in the Louise Hay book. This could be something that you picked up elsewhere, you know, and it could be time to let that go. But I do think that we all judge ourselves. Let's be fair, you know, there's no perfect people. If there is, please jump on here and tell us who you are. You know, we all have judgments, you know, but if it's something that's repetitive and it's the same thing, you need to look into that, you know, and maybe write it, you know what I mean, and try and figure out where it came from, because I really don't believe if something's repetitive, it's something that we've learned and it's stored in the subconscious mind, and there's usually a memory as well attached to that, you know, and it may not be yours, it could be something that happened, or, you know, we need to release those kind of things. And if it's just something you've made up about yourself, you have to start asking yourself, why am I self-sabotaging myself here, you know? If it's stopping you from doing something, or because if we're judging ourselves, it's definitely going to stop us from doing the things that we want to do. What do you think, Lily?
Yeah, I think it's first is having the awareness that's even happening.
Yeah.
You have this negative self-talk that goes on your mind, and then seeing the difference, because there's also us pushing ourselves a little bit further as well. So it's like, it's being content, but at the same time still achieving for something that's achieving a greater version of yourself as well. So understanding the difference between the two. So having the self-awareness to really know that to begin with. So for me, I always take a moment to think about, is this thought that I'm having, because you have all of these thoughts like kind of like floating across. Is this thought that I'm having going to help me expand and be a greater version of myself? Or is it going to make me shrink? And if it's going to make me shrink, then that's not a thought I need to have. So I need to release that. But if it's something that it's out of fear, maybe I'm telling myself, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't do that live interview with Melissa. You don't have the proper equipment, whatever it is. Oh, my internet connection is terrible. But that's because I'm shrinking myself, because I'm afraid that people are going to judge me for being live. So understanding the difference between the two really helps. And practical things that you can do is, take 2 seconds to just think about it. Think about it for a second, and then just do more things. Like, even if you feel like you're judging yourself, just step into it and do it even more. Like this live thing that we started. In the beginning, we're both like, well, we haven't done this before, let's try it. But we just went ahead and did it, and we stopped judging ourselves. So do more and start doing things that scare you a little bit, and stop worrying about all the negative stuff. It's practice. It's every single day. You got to start with something.
Absolutely. I totally. Don't you just Lily? You really answers for everything. And I love, Lily, the way you explain everything so beautifully. It just flows,
Thank you.
I really admire that.
You know what it is, Melissa? A lot of the suggestions I have, a lot of the advice that I have is the advice I give myself a lot of the times. So it's me talking to myself through, and then answering the questions too. That's why it flows, I think.
I think that's amazing, and that's brilliant, to me. And the best way, of course, is sharing that with all of us. We all need to learn.
Beautiful. We have one more question, Melissa. We got some nice questions coming from Positive Vibes today. He's saying, why do we wear mental mask? And then he says, hiding behind fear.
Oh boy, listen.
That's a long subject.
Yeah, that's a big one. And I think it's all about, again, stepping out of your comfort zone, isn't it? And this was something I've been struggling with. To even open this channel, oh my goodness, I had wanted to do it for so long, so many years ago, when YouTube was fresh, you know what I mean? And now we're talking, I didn't open it till last year. It's only a year now I opened this channel. And it was all about that, the mental fear, putting myself out there, judgments again, self-talk, criticism, just like what we spoke about a few minutes ago. But I think it's having, how would you say, to have the passion and the knowingness, that you are worth more than your fear, and if it's something like you want to share something or you want to do something that it's so valuable to somebody else, then you have to push through and break through the comfort zone. So what was the question? Why do we wear mental masks hiding behind fear?
Mm-hmm.
Mental mask, like, again, it's like you have to be true to yourself, and I think that whether you're doing YouTube or you're going into work, or you're spending time with your family, you have to really know yourself. You have to sit with yourself and ask yourself, am I comfortable around these people? I think as well, it's very important who we surround ourselves with. Are we really being ourselves with those people? Are they bringing out the best side of us? And again, for me, it's all about presence, because I feel good when I speak with you, Lily. The best side of me, I feel, is coming out. Even though I have a fear of going live, like I said before, now that fear has disappeared, I've pushed through it. But, I think the important thing is to acknowledge it and to always recognize that it's totally normal as well. But to accept yourself 100% and to, look who you're surrounding yourself with. Ask yourself those questions. Am I comfortable with this person? Do I feel good? Do I feel good in these clothes? All these different things can help. What do you think, Lily?
Yeah, that's so good. These are all very small things
Yeah,
that we can pay attention to. I think, okay, this is genuineness is something that is extremely important to me. It's actually one of my major values is always being genuine, but it's a daily practice. It's a practice. It's not like some people, it's not, you know how sometimes you say, oh, this person is so authentic and this person is not authentic. I don't think we're born authentic, you know,
no.
like when no one is born more authentic than someone else. I think as we talked about this last week, like babies are very authentic. They're very congruent. If they feel like crying, they will cry. If they feel like laughing, they will laugh. They will laugh hysterically. But something happens along the way. And it's for us to figure out what, number one, there's a lot of work that needs to go into. It's like, why am I not being myself? What is the judgment?
Self-work, you know.
It's a lot of work. And the practical thing would be is practicing authenticity, practicing to be authentic. I have to practice being authentic every single day of my life. And I know when I'm not being authentic. And usually it comes from a place where I feel like I have to be a certain way to make someone feel comfortable. You know, maybe if I'm a little bit too crazy, this person might feel uncomfortable around me. And I could feel it. It's almost like I have like a physiological response to it. I almost feel like I feel it in my throat, actually. It's interesting. I feel it in my throat. It's like someone's like kind of grabbing. Yeah, but that took like a lot of awareness to figure out like the physiological response to not being authentic. So, and then ask them like, is it because of this person or is it because my perception of this person and I feel like they're not, you know, going to accept me wholeheartedly being who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So having the self-awareness to know when you're not being authentic and you're wearing a mask. And then number two is just trying to bring yourself forward. And of course, you know, we're not like by no means offending people. Like you don't want to offend people either, right? Because it comes from a place of care. But
Absolutely.
But always practicing every single day, every single moment, like you were saying. You know, if you're around
I think as well, you know, people have a fear of being themselves because they're afraid of losing what they already have, you know. Because if we're not really being ourselves, okay, and we have a group of people around us, maybe friends, family, and they haven't really seen the true us. They've seen glimpses of it, obviously, because you can't. You know, I don't think as well that you can say that people aren't really being themselves because, you know, people are always showing you different sides to themselves, and sometimes they only show glimpses, right, of their real selves. Maybe they have a fear of expressing themselves or a fear of showing the world, or maybe they don't feel good enough, you know, as well. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's very important, like what Lily said, you know, really reflecting on it and asking yourself the right questions. And to start being authentic, it's a daily practice and even just small steps because as well, you know, when you start to change, and I found this in my own life, the people around you, they start to notice, you know, and some people will honor that change and some people may not, you know. I don't know about you, Lily, have you found this in your life? But I felt that a lot of people fell away from my life when I started to be really true to myself, you know, accepting myself 100%, saying no when I wanted to say no, saying yes when I wanted to say yes. And people, like I said to you before, I had struggled with always being a yes person.
Yes.
So it took a lot of work for me to actually stand my ground and say, no, I don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't want to do that. You know, like what you said there about the throat, that's exactly where I felt it too, you know.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, I could feel it, like my voice would start to shake, you know what I mean? Because it was something I had to learn to do. So, yeah. So anyway, guys, we're on a half an hour.
Yes.
And I want to thank everybody for all the amazing questions. And we will for sure next Tuesday talk about something like this again. What do you think, Lily?
That's awesome. I actually want to put a little underscore in what you just mentioned about do people fall off your life because you're changing, you're growing into yourself more, you're becoming your more authentic self. I think it's important to make a point in this because when you try to live as your true self, which I have experienced myself and kind of growing into it, you're going to have people say, well, that doesn't seem like you. Because you were not like this before. Like, wow, you're so real, and it's a little too raw for me. I think what happened was it's really a byproduct of you not being yourself for such a long time. Because we put on different masks, like going back to positive vibes point, we put on these different masks. And we have a tendency of attracting those people because of the mask we put on. And then once we start taking it off, now we have to deal with their judgment because they are attracted to us based on a certain mask we put on. And of course, it's going to be part of growth. You are going to lose certain people in your life, but then you're going to gain other people in your life who are attracted to your genuine and true selves. So it's well worth it, in my opinion.
Absolutely, I totally agree. It can be lonely as well, you know, at the start, but you have to persevere because, you know, your true self is the most important thing. Your inner beauty, your outer beauty, whatever way you want to express that, by speaking your truth, wearing what you want to wear, whatever it is, you know, it's so important to be yourself, inside and out. And I love the way Lily, again, she explained it. She just says all these things so beautifully. And I'm going to thank you, Lily, so much again for helping us all and giving us all your wise words. And I hope you guys enjoyed this week's Tuesday Live, and you'll join us again next Tuesday for some more chats. And if you have any questions for next week, you can always drop them in the comments below. I'm sure that Lily would be so delighted. She loves questions, and so do I actually, because it keeps the conversation going, and it's lovely to connect with you all.
Yes.
So, Lily, do you want to say something?
I don't know. What should I say? What am I going to say? So, you know what? Just be your true selves and love who you are. That's the most important thing.
Exactly. So we'll end it there. I'm going to give you all a great big kiss. Thanks for watching, guys. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.